April 1945. Nazi Germany was collapsing. Cities were falling. Flags were disappearing. Civilians believed surrender meant going home, rebuilding life, and forgetting the nightmare. But American troops advancing through Thuringia and Bavaria were about to discover horrors that went far beyond battlefields and destroyed cities. On April 4, 1945, U.S. forces liberated Ohrdruf, the first Nazi concentration camp captured by the Western Allies. What they found there changed everything. This wasn't a prison. This wasn't simply wartime cruelty. It was systematic death, industrial murder. And one American general made a decision. Germany would never again say, "We didn't know." When soldiers of the 4th Armored Division and 89th Infantry Division entered Ohrdruf on April 4, nothing in their military training prepared them for it. Hundreds of bodies were found, shot, starved, dumped into trenches. Many were so decomposed and emaciated that hardened combat veterans collapsed, cried, or vomited. General Dwight Eisenhower would later say it was the most shocking thing he had ever witnessed. This wasn't the aftermath of battle. These were civilians and prisoners deliberately worked to death, executed, or left to rot. It wasn't chaos. It was organized cruelty, a system designed to erase human beings. On April 12, 1945, Generals Eisenhower, Patton, and Bradley personally visited Ohrdruf. Patton, one of the toughest commanders of the war, nearly collapsed. The smell, the bodies, the starvation. He had survived North Africa, Sicily, Normandy, and the Ardennes. Yet this broke him in a way bullets never could. Soldiers had died in battle. Here, people weren't just killed. They were processed, like objects. Patton later ordered that nothing be cleaned, nothing buried, until witnesses saw it. History needed proof, evidence, and responsibility. This was not simply an atrocity. It was a crime against civilization. Patton turned to his officers and gave an order that stunned everyone. "Bring the German civilians, all of them. They will see this." People from the nearby town of Gotha and surrounding villages were rounded up. Some argued, some shouted, some claimed ignorance. Many insisted it was Allied propaganda. Patton didn't care. The world had to witness. If anyone ever dared deny what happened, these civilians would stand as living testimony. Germany would not be allowed to move forward while pretending nothing happened behind barbed wire. The civilians were gathered in the town square. Old men, women, local officials, church leaders, shop owners, ordinary people. Then American soldiers marched them toward the camp, step by step, mile by mile. First came the uneasy silence, then confusion, then fear. The smell reached them long before the gates appeared. Not the smell of war, the smell of something worse, something unforgettable, something that seeps into memory and never leaves. S. When the gates opened, the world changed for them. No speeches, no explanations, no soldiers needed to yell. Reality spoke for itself. Frozen bodies, mass graves, burned corpses, survivors who looked like walking skeletons. This was no battlefield tragedy. This was murder on a scale civilians had never imagined. Many covered their faces. Many shook uncontrollably. Some whispered prayers. Others simply stared, their minds unable to process what stood inches before them. They saw things they would remember for the rest of their lives. A woman fainted. An elderly man collapsed in tears. Some civilians tried to say, "This cannot be Germany." But it was. This was their country, their regime, their war, their silence, their fear, their indifference. Many admitted later they chose not to ask questions. Paperwork said labor camps. Newspapers said enemies of the state. Reality said otherwise. And now there was no escape from it. Patton didn't scream at them. He didn't humiliate them. He simply spoke. "This is what your government did. This is what your silence allowed." He believed responsibility must exist before healing could ever begin. Civilians had lived their lives outside the barbed wire. Now they were forced to face those who never left it. Patton ensured this lesson would not wash away with time. Patton ordered many civilians, including town officials, to help bury the victims. They dug graves, they lifted bodies, they laid victims with dignity the Nazis denied them. It wasn't revenge. It was accountability. It was the first step toward acknowledging that what happened wasn't distant. It was next door. Their hands touched the cost of silence. Their eyes could never unsee it. Ohrdruf was just the beginning. Buchenwald was liberated on April 11, 1945. Dachau on April 29, 1945. Each camp revealed the same truth: systematic starvation, torture, medical horror, and industrialized death. The Allies documented everything: photographs, films, testimonies, because they knew one day someone would try to deny it. Eisenhower even ordered journalists and congressmen to see it. History needed witnesses. Survivors watched German civilians enter the camps. Some looked at them with rage, some with sorrow, others with empty eyes too exhausted to feel anymore. For years they had been invisible. Now the country that allowed their suffering was forced to look at them as human beings. One survivor later said, "For the first time, they truly saw us." Shock turned to shame, shame turned to guilt, and guilt turned into something Patton hoped would stay forever: memory. Many German civilians left the camps in tears. Others returned home in silence, unable to sleep for nights. Some never emotionally recovered. But one thing was now impossible: pretending ignorance. Patton believed this wasn't just about Germany, it was about humanity. Evil thrives when ordinary people stay silent. When societies stop asking questions, when fear becomes obedience. The camps were not built in secret laboratories. They were built in a civilization, in a modern nation, in a developed society. That is what makes them terrifying. But Eisenhower later wrote, "The things I saw beggar description." He demanded maximum documentation because he feared future generations might deny it ever happened. Thanks to that decision, history could never erase these crimes. The world would remember not simply through words, but through undeniable proof. Those civilians went home changed, forever. Some helped rebuild Germany with honesty. Some lived the rest of their lives refusing to forget. But Patton achieved what he wanted. Germany and the world could never again say, "We didn't know." And because they were forced to see, we still remember today.